I was not supposed to feel like this, not over them. But the second he said, I love you, something shifted. And suddenly I wasn't just watching Mary and Tom. I was inside it, stuck in every glance, almost every word they didn't say. And the worst part, it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, soft, the kind of love that creeps up on you and then refuses to let go. Because tell me why this felt less like a story and more like something dangerously real. It starts so quietly that you almost miss it. Not a grand entrance, not a dramatic declaration, just Mary existing the way she always has. Slightly overlooked, slightly outside of everything, like she's watching life happen instead of living it. And that's what makes it hurt more, because you can feel it in the way she carries herself. Careful, reserved. Like she's already decided she is not the kind of person people choose. And then there's him, not loud, not overwhelming, not trying to steal the room, but somehow he notices her. And that's where everything begins to change, because attention like that, it's not casual, it's not accidental. It lingers, it studies, it sees things no one else has bothered to look for. And the moment he starts looking at Mary like that, you can feel the shift even before she does, even before she understands what's happening. At first, it's small. Conversations that feel a little too meaningful, silences that don't feel empty, the kind of presence that doesn't demand anything, but somehow gives everything. And Mary, she doesn't know what to do with that. You can see it. The hesitation, the disbelief, like she's waiting for the moment it all disappears, because things like this don't last for her. But he doesn't disappear. If anything, he gets closer, and that's where it becomes dangerous, because now it's not just about being noticed. Now it's about being understood. The way he listens to her, the way he speaks to her, like her thoughts matter, like her voice carries weight. It's not exaggerated. It's not dramatic. It's steady, intentional. And that kind of attention, it doesn't just make you feel seen, it makes you start seeing yourself differently. And Mary starts to change. Not all at once, not in some obvious cinematic way, but slowly, subtly, like something inside her is waking up after being quiet for too long. She starts responding instead of retreating, speaking instead of shrinking, and it's not because she's trying to become someone else, it's because, for the first time, someone is giving her space to be who she already is. And that's what makes this so intense, because you realize this isn't just romance, this is transformation. But here's the problem. The more something matters, the more fragile it becomes. And just when you think this connection is building into something safe, something real, the outside world starts pressing in. Expectations, other people, assumptions, the kind of noise that makes everything feel complicated when it used to feel simple. And suddenly, what was unspoken starts to feel uncertain. Because what happens when two people feel something deeply, but don't fully say it out loud? What happens when timing, misunderstanding, and fear start filling in the gaps where honesty should be? And the worst part, you can already feel it slipping, because the connection is still there, the tension is still there, but now there's distance creeping in where closeness used to be, and you're left sitting there, watching it unfold, thinking, why does it feel like everything is about to fall apart? Right when it finally started to mean something. And this is where it stops being soft and starts hurting, because once doubt enters, it doesn't knock politely, it settles in. Quiet at first, almost invisible, but then it starts rewriting everything. Every look becomes a question. Every silence becomes an answer you didn't want. And suddenly, what felt certain begins to feel fragile. Mary feels it before she understands it, that shift, that almost imperceptible distance. It's not that he's gone. He's still there, still kind, still attentive, still him. But something is different now, and she can't quite name it. And that's the most frustrating part, because how do you fight something you can't even explain? So she does what she has always done. She steps back, not dramatically, not in a way anyone would immediately notice. But emotionally, she retreats. She becomes careful again, guarded, like she's trying to protect something that hasn't even fully formed yet. And the more she pulls away, the more everything between them becomes unclear. And he notices, of course he does. But instead of asking directly, instead of breaking through that growing silence, he hesitates too, because he's not immune to doubt either. He starts reading into things that may not even be there. He starts filling in blanks with assumptions instead of truth. And just like that, they're both standing on opposite sides of the same feeling, misunderstanding it in completely different ways. And this is where it gets unbearable to watch, because they're still orbiting each other, still drawn together, still feeling everything. But now there's this invisible barrier between them, built entirely out of things unsaid. And then other people step in, not intentionally to hurt them, not deliberately to ruin anything, but their presence changes the dynamic. Conversations get interrupted, attention gets divided, and suddenly what once felt private and personal starts to feel exposed and complicated. Mary sees him talking to someone else, laughing, engaged, present, and it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't, but it does. Because now the question creeps in, was it ever real? Was the way he looked at her actually different? Or did she just imagine it because she wanted it to be true? And once that thought takes hold, it doesn't let go. She starts doubting herself more than him, replaying every moment, every word, every glance, trying to figure out where she misunderstood, where she let herself believe something that maybe was never fully promised. And instead of confronting it, she internalizes it, because that's what she's used to. Feeling like she got it wrong, feeling like she expected too much, feeling like she misread something that was never truly hers to begin with. And him, he sees the change in her, but he interprets it differently. To him, it looks like distance, disinterest, maybe even rejection. And instead of pushing closer, instead of asking the one question that could fix everything, he respects that distance. He gives her space. And that is the moment everything starts to slip, because space in this situation doesn't heal anything. It widens the gap. It allows every fear, every insecurity, every unspoken thought to grow louder. And before either of them realizes what's happening, they're no longer moving toward each other. They're drifting apart. But here's what makes it even worse. The feelings didn't go away. Not for her, not for him. If anything, they got stronger, more intense, more impossible to ignore. And now every interaction carries this weight, this tension, this almost like they're both standing right at the edge of something life-changing. But neither of them is brave enough to take that final step. And you can feel it building, that inevitable moment where something has to break. Because this kind of silence, this kind of misunderstanding, it doesn't just fade away. It explodes. And the question is no longer whether something will go wrong. It's how badly it will fall apart when it does. Because what happens when two people who clearly belong together start believing they don't? And this is where everything unravels. Not loudly, not all at once, but in quiet, devastating pieces. Because at some point, the tension becomes too heavy to carry. You can only pretend not to feel something for so long before it starts spilling out in the worst possible ways. And with them, it doesn't come out as honesty, it comes out as frustration, as distance, as words that don't quite say what they actually mean. Mary reaches her limit first, not because she feels less, but because she feels too much. And when you're not used to being chosen, when you've spent your entire life standing on the outside, the moment something starts to feel uncertain, you don't fight for it. You prepare yourself to lose it. So she does the one thing that feels safe. She pulls away completely, not just physically, but emotionally. She puts walls up where there were none before. She becomes sharper, colder, harder to reach. And to anyone else, it might look like strength, like independence, like she's finally finding herself. But it's not that. It's defense. It's her trying to protect her heart before it gets broken by something she's not even sure was ever real. And Tom, he doesn't understand, or maybe he does, but not in the way he should, because from where he's standing, it looks like she's changed, like the girl who slowly opened up to him is suddenly gone. And that hurts him more than he expected, more than he's willing to admit, because somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, she stopped being just someone he noticed. She became someone he needed, and now she's slipping away. So he reacts, not with clarity, not with honesty, but with his own version of distance, with restraint, with words that sound controlled on the surface, but carry something deeper underneath. And when they finally face each other again, when all that tension has nowhere left to go, it doesn't come out as a confession. It comes out as conflict. Every sentence feels like it's hiding something else. Every response feels slightly off, slightly misaligned, like they're having two completely different conversations while standing in the same moment. She thinks he never truly chose her. He thinks she's already chosen to walk away. And neither of them says the one thing that could fix everything, because saying it would mean risking everything. And that's the tragedy of it. They're so close to the truth, but fear keeps pulling them in the opposite direction. And then it happens, the breaking point. Not dramatic, not explosive in the way you'd expect, but final in a way that feels even worse. An ending that doesn't feel like closure, just absence. He steps back. She lets him. And just like that, it's over. Or at least that's what it feels like, because the space he leaves behind, it's not empty. It's filled with everything they didn't say, everything they almost had, everything that could have been if just one of them had been brave enough to speak at the right moment. And Mary, she feels it the most. Not immediately, not in some obvious emotional collapse, but slowly, in the quiet moments, in the realization that something inside her has changed. And now that it's gone, she can't go back to who she was before. Because once you've been seen like that, once someone has made you feel like you belong somewhere, losing it doesn't just hurt, it haunts you. And the worst part, she starts to believe that maybe this was inevitable. Maybe she was never meant to have something like this. Maybe she imagined it all. And that thought, that quiet, destructive thought, starts settling in deeper than anything else. But here's the thing, feelings like that don't just disappear. They don't end cleanly. They don't fade into nothing. They stay. They linger. They wait. And somewhere beneath all the distance, all the pride, all the silence, the truth is still there. Unresolved, unspoken, and dangerously unfinished. Because if it was really over, why does it still feel like something is about to happen? Why does it feel like this isn't the end, but the moment right before everything changes again? And just when you think it's over, it refuses to end. Because distance doesn't erase what happened, it sharpens it. Every memory becomes clearer, every word hits harder, every moment they shared starts replaying in a way that feels almost cruel, like the past is reminding them of something they're trying to forget. And the worst part is, they both feel it, separately, alone. Mary tries to move forward. She tells herself all the right things, that it was brief, that it was uncertain, that it was never fully hers to lose, but none of it works because the truth keeps breaking through. This wasn't nothing. It was never nothing. It changed her. And now she has to live with that. You can see it in the way she carries herself now. She's not the same girl from before. She's stronger, yes, more aware, more present, but there's something else too, a quiet ache, like she's holding on to something she can't quite reach anymore. And then his name comes up again, casual at first, almost insignificant, but not to her, because the moment she hears it, everything she's been trying to bury comes rushing back all at once. The conversations, the glances, the feeling of being understood in a way she never had before. And suddenly moving on doesn't feel as simple as she convinced herself it would be. Because how do you move on from something that never truly ended? And Tom, he's not untouched by this either. If anything, he's worse, because where Mary pulled inward, he tried to move outward, to distract himself, to continue as if nothing had changed, but it doesn't work. It never works because every interaction now feels incomplete, flat, like something is missing, and he knows exactly what it is. He just hasn't said it out loud yet. But the truth is starting to catch up to him. In quiet realizations, in moments where he stops and thinks back, not about what went wrong, but about what was actually there. And slowly, painfully, he starts to understand something he should have seen from the beginning. He didn't misread her. He misread the silence. He assumed distance. Where there was fear, he accepted an ending that was never clearly spoken. And now he's left with the weight of that mistake. Because what if she didn't walk away? What if she was waiting? And that question, it changes everything, because now it's no longer about protecting himself or respecting boundaries. Now it's about whether he's willing to risk being wrong, to risk hearing something he doesn't want to hear, just for the chance that he might finally hear the truth. And that's terrifying, but not as terrifying as the alternative, living with the idea that he let something real slip away without ever truly fighting for it. So now, the distance between them doesn't feel like closure anymore. It feels like unfinished business, like something that's been paused, not ended. And the closer they get to crossing paths again, the more intense everything becomes. Not because anything new is happening, but because everything old is still there, unresolved and waiting. And when they finally stand in the same space again, nothing feels normal. Not the air, not the silence, not the way they look at each other like they're trying to read everything they missed the first time. There's tension, not the soft kind from before, but something heavier, something sharper, and built from everything they've been holding back. And you can feel it this moment, this exact moment, where something has to be said, because if they walk away again without speaking the truth, this time it really will be over. So the question isn't whether they still feel something. That's already clear. The question is, are they finally going to say it, or are they about to lose each other for real this time? And this is it. The moment everything has been building toward. No more distance to hide behind. No more silence to misunderstand. No more pretending that what they feel isn't real. Because now they're standing in front of each other, and for the first time, there is nowhere left to run. You can feel it immediately. That tension, that weight, that history between them. Every look, almost every word they never said, it's all there, sitting in the space between them, waiting to be acknowledged, and suddenly, all the excuses feel small. All the fear feels unnecessary. Because when something matters this much, avoiding it doesn't protect you. It only delays the inevitable. Mary feels it first. That realization that she's tired of guessing, tired of holding back, tired of pretending she doesn't care when every part of her does. And for the first time, she doesn't step back. She doesn't retreat into silence. She stays. And that alone changes everything, because he notices, of course he notices, the difference in her, the strength in the way she holds herself now. Not guarded, not closed off, but steady, certain. Like she's finally decided that her feelings are not something to be hidden or dismissed. And that does something to him. It breaks through the last of his hesitation. Because suddenly, the risk doesn't feel as terrifying as the regret. So he speaks. Not perfectly, not with rehearsed words or grand gestures, but honestly. And that's what makes it hit harder. Because there's no performance in it. No careful distance. Just truth. Raw, unfiltered, and long overdue. The kind of truth that doesn't try to protect itself anymore. And Mary, she listens. Not as the girl who doubts herself, not as the one who expects disappointment, but as someone who finally understands her own worth. And for a second, everything feels suspended, like the world has gone quiet just to hear this moment unfold. Because this is where everything could either come together or fall apart completely. And then the truth finally lands. Not in fragments, not in half-spoken words, but fully, undeniably clear. Everything they thought they misunderstood wasn't misunderstanding. Everything they thought they imagined was real. Every feeling, every hesitation, every moment of doubt, it all came from the same place. They both cared, they both waited, they both held back for the exact same reasons. And realizing that, it changes everything. Because now there's nothing left to question. No uncertainty, no confusion, just the simple, overwhelming fact that what they have has always been there. And for the first time, they don't let it slip away. No stepping back, no misreading silence, no choosing fear over truth, just choosing each other. And it's not loud, it's not dramatic in the way you'd expect after everything they've been through. It's quiet, certain, the kind of moment that doesn't need to prove itself, because you can feel it in everything they don't have to say anymore. And somehow that makes it even more powerful, because after all the missed chances, all the distance that nearly broke them, they made it. They finally made it. And you're sitting there realizing why it felt so intense the entire time. Why it felt so different, why it stayed with you. Because this wasn't just about two people falling in love. It was about being seen, about being chosen, about finding someone who makes you feel like you belong. Not on the outside, not on the edges, but right in the center of something that finally feels like yours. And that feeling, that's why it hits so hard. That's why you were floating. That's why you're still thinking about them even after it's over. Because some stories don't just end, they stay with you. And now the only question left is, if something like this found you, would you be brave enough to hold on to it, or would you let it slip away just like they almost did?